Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning back into iShot Logic. So we're down to the last couple of days here. It's go time for the election. I know there's probably still a lot of people out there that are undecided and trying to figure out what is the best direction for them and what's in their best interest. This election, as we all know, can shake the entire landscape of the country's future. There are several important issues that will have an impact of enormous depth, and I'd like to address those today. But first, we got to talk about democracy versus dictatorship. Now, I know some of us are fed up with the progression that we've seen over the last few years. That is uncomfortable for people on all sides. However, we have to share this world with people that we may not necessarily agree with. Some people who don't share the same views that we do, same beliefs that we do, here on our own land and abroad. Folks, if you like this content, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. Please share it. Thank you all for your support. Let's get into it. Trump and Putin. So in 2017, the Trump administration themselves discovered that there had been tampering from Russia with our presidential election. And now even this year in 2024, there were 3 content creators based out of Tennessee that had found to have been receiving payments, somewhere over $100,000 worth of payments from a Russian-based company. So the question is, why is Russia/Putin so favorable to Trump? I have a theory on this that goes back to the first meeting that Trump had with Putin after our officials discovered that there was tampering with the election. Does anybody remember when Trump's administration, as well as the American citizens, were looking for him to call Putin out on this when they had their first meeting in 2017, and they had a 2-hour closed-door meeting that nobody knew anything about, and how Trump said in so many words that he asked Putin about it, and Putin denied it, and that he didn't have any reason not to believe him. Do you remember this? That secret exchange was critical, and I'll get to that in a second. But the question for me is, why does Trump like Putin so much? So I got to thinking about it, I got to analyzing it, and I've come to the conclusion that he wants to be like Putin. So for those who don't really know the story of Putin, Putin rose to the ranks as a member of the KGB early in his political career. Now, he was a counterintelligence agent. He wasn't like an assassin or somebody that, went out and carried out blood missions. He was a counterintelligence agent. That was his specialty. He earned his bones by looking into the KGB itself, the enemy within. That was what he focused on. Does that sound familiar? As the years went on and Putin moved up and was ultimately passed the baton by Boris Yeltsin, Putin developed relationships with the oligarchs, which oligarchs are basically the wealthy and the top 1%. They own all the oil companies. They control how Russia functions. They're the ones that own everything in Russia. So these oligarchs, he got himself in with them and built good relationships with them and participated in the corruption that they were in. But it all changed when one of the oligarchs, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, called out Putin for corruption and called out corruption amongst the oligarchs. And Putin focused on him, actually arrested, charged, and convicted him with tax evasion and threw him in jail for what ultimately ended up being 10 years. And he threatened the other oligarchs that he would do the same to them if they didn't basically bend to his will. And then he also basically extorted them for 50% he wanted a 50% cut of their profits. Not for the good of the people, not to go into a fund to help the people, but for his pockets. This type of extortion tactic wouldn't be new to Putin. And how I tie all this back into Trump is I say that if he would do that to the richest man in his own country, if he had leverage against another world leader, why would he not do the same? As I mentioned before, he was a counterintelligence agent. But that being said, you're probably wondering, what am I getting at here? Here's what I'm getting at. I believe that when they had this closed door meeting, I believe the conversation went a little something like this. Putin basically told him, look, I helped you get into office. I helped you get into power. I'll help keep you there. As long as you don't meddle in Russian affairs and let me take over Ukraine, let me recapture Ukraine and bring back the old Russia. And if you don't cooperate and stay out of my way, then I'm going to expose what evidence I have of your participation with these young girls over here in Russia and other parts of Europe dating back the last 30, 40 years. How hard do you think it will be for Putin to be able to get a hold of some pictures or some tapes or something, especially if Trump was over there in that area participating in that stuff? We've already seen the reports that have came out about the females that were associating Epstein with Trump here just recently. There was a couple of them that came out that talked about how Epstein had posted that he takes care of Donald and he takes care of Trump and all these parties and all these things all these functions that they were going to that involved these young girls. So in a way, he's already been down. But I believe that was a conversation. I believe that Putin is blackmailing Trump to be for him and help protect his interests. Also, we heard about these alleged pictures of topless girls that were under 18 sitting around Trump in a pool. Some reported to be even sitting on his lap. So we got that to look at. And that's the reason why Ukraine is a big issue in Russia, is because it was said that Putin felt that the fall of communism and the breaking down of the Berlin Wall was like the worst thing that could have ever happened. He wants to recapture Ukraine to do what he feels is restoring the old Russia. And America is basically standing in his way. But with Trump in office, and with him having something over his head, Trump let him do whatever he wants to do. I also believe that Trump wants to mimic what Putin did. I think he's helping all these rich guys, giving them the tax cuts and everything like that. I think all of this is strategy. I think he's doing it to put himself in position to where he can then have leverage over them to say, okay, I've done all this for you all. Now, I need to cut from my pocket. And there's no doubt in my mind that Trump is not above extorting the rich and powerful in this country that he's helping in order to get money in his pocket. As a dictator, he will be able to do that. He will be able to weaponize the justice system against his enemies, political opponents or otherwise, just like Putin did. Use Steve Bannon and Nick Fuentes and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these people like that to replace the roles of important people, key people in government, in this case, to do his bidding. Along with all that was just unpacked, let's take a look at the threat of Americans' health care, civil rights, women's reproductive rights that Project 2025 raises. In a nutshell, a rollback of policies that actually help make America great, including DEI. Now, you all look at DEI and think that there's something so wrong with it. So the founding fathers didn't have any problem having people of color come over here and help build their country. Actually built ships and went over there and got them. So DEI was okay then, but not now. Oh, I know why. Because now it's not free labor. Now you have to pay these people. Voter suppression and prosecutorial immunity for police. Dismantling of the Affordable Care Act with no clear plan to replace it, leaving over 50 million Americans without health insurance. Now look, when it comes to the reproductive rights, look, I have 3 daughters, man. I can't imagine what it would be like if they had a life-threatening situation due to a pregnancy or something to do with their reproductive system and them not be able to get treatment. Hey, girl dads out there, like myself, have y'all looked at this yet? Are y'all taking this seriously? Knowing that black women are disproportionately affected in the communities by complications with pregnancy and things related to healthcare. Now, what's that going to look like if there's no Obamacare there to relieve that for those black women? And right now, I'm talking to us, black men. Y'all mad that Obama called out sexism of black men who don't want to vote for Harris?
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for them.
We can't leave her out here on an island while most black women actually relate to Kamala Harris, given the fact that she graduated from an HBCU. So fellas, our sisters are down with her. But I will warn us, as black men, we don't get to complain if we look up in 2026 after this guy's been in office for 2 years and see the police just beating black men willy-nilly in the street with no accountability whatsoever, while black women are dying at a higher clip because of the lack of health care, because of the restrictions on the reproductive rights, as well as black people in general with pre-existing conditions like myself who won't be able to afford health care and won't be able to afford insulin and the things that they need. Then you're going to be hollering about, well, why ain't black women got our back? Well, because we had a chance to have their back and to have our daughters and our nieces and our granddaughters' backs, and our pride kept us from doing so. Even with the generational missteps of some women in our black community that traded the fathers for a government check, aggressively pursued us for child support, even getting some brothers locked up for it, not allowing brothers to be able to see their kids out. That's not every black woman. But we know that that has been something that us black men have looked at in our community and have not looked favorable towards our women because of the single parent situation. We know this. But even though they've made their share of mistakes, when it came to social justice, they've been right there at the forefront. Every march that you see on TV, there's always a swell of black women, and sometimes the women outnumber the men. When it came to Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, black women have been there. Black women have been at those rallies and they've had our backs. So what Obama was trying to say was that, look, if we gonna vote, if we got a choice between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, if we would vote against our own best interest to vote for Donald Trump simply because he's a man and we're worried about her being a woman and having some sort of emotional instability because she's female, well then, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. Especially given the agenda that we know that Trump is trying to carry out. You clearly value yourself over the village. That's what Obama was saying. I'm not offended by it at all. He's calling it out. And I feel bad for you that some of us as black men would fall for the Jedi mind tricks after repeatedly being shown who and what you're voting for. Ultimately, that's what Obama was saying. Now, I'm not saying that I believe that Kamala Harris has the answer to everything that is plaguing our nation, but I'm confident that she can lead better than him, even if he is a man, even if he is rich. Putin saw the fall of communism as a massive defeat, and he wants to roll back the clock in that country and get back to what resembled the old Soviet Union. And Trump is trying to do the same thing with America and roll it back to the old America. It all makes sense. And as for people who try to liken him to Reagan, you're basically just hawking a loogie on the presidential seal if you're trying to do that. Even though during the Reagan administration, black men and black folks in general suffered because the trickle-down economics theory didn't pan out. There were a lot of young black men who were jailed due to the war on drugs that was initiated during the Nixon administration and was carried on by the Reagan administration. Reagan was still more presidential than Trump could ever dream of being. He would address the country with analytics and details, displayed compassion and empathy in times of crisis, and took accountability for everything that went wrong with his administration. Reagan took the Iran-Contra affair and that whole debacle, and he put that on himself. While Trump said he takes no responsibility for anything bad that happened during his administration, mainly COVID, in his handling of it. Reagan would have never did that. Just understand, people, you are not getting Reagan 2.0 with this guy. My message to us black men today is it's not about who you should vote for. Nobody can judge you for what way you vote. Whether you decide to vote for Trump or whether you decide not to vote at all, that's on you. Nobody can judge you for that. All I'm saying is, black men, if we help get him in, if we end up being the difference between him winning and losing the election, just be prepared to deal with the consequences that come with it. As the old saying goes, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. Thank you all for watching this video. If you like this content, please feel free to like and subscribe. Also hit the notification tab. Appreciate your support. Peace.